anything, we've seen this before. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the 60s. Well, I was born in the 60s, but it was kind of crazy. And Dave, you remember what was going on. And I don't see this as anything new. Graham?
Not intended to steal Dave's thunder, and because
Oh, he'll get his thunder back. Dave's
he
pretty
has an
good about.
impressive knowledge of these things, and I'm sure he knows what I'm about to say. He will know very well that back in the 60s, and it's ironic that we talked to, the Democrats get all upset about, the Russians interfering in our elections. But back in the 60s and the 70s, the KGB, in the days of the Soviet Union, the KGB had an entire department which was dedicated to funding and advising and motivating any any protest movement in the Western world to destabilize us. And so it was, they were all orchestrated.
All right,
Over to
back
you,
to
Dave.
Dave.
Sorry.
Back to Dave.
No, I think that what Graham has to say is true. It is kind of the underlying motivation in many of these protest events in the United States, particularly. But what we're seeing today is very similar to what we saw in 1968 on college campuses, but most dramatically at the Democratic Convention in 1968 in Chicago. But those folks were there to protest principally the Vietnam War, and mostly they were left-wing counterculture groups, not terribly dissimilar to what you have today. But the students were more focused on ending the Vietnam War. I suspect they were more intent on not being drafted as opposed to whether they cared about the war, but they were generally privileged, well-heeled anarchists, socialists, and, as we've seen recently, clueless. There is a tragedy, however, in all of this, and it is the extent to which many of these folks will go. And that was in 1970 when the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus was bombed, the Army Math Research Center there in Sterling
Mhm.
Hall, and it killed a hapless 33-year-old researcher named Robert Fastnacht, who happened to be working late there when the four culprits bombed the building and then attempted to escape to, of course, Canada. Only three made it, but were captured. One is still at large, actually. But I think that similar riots have been taking place at college campuses, and one that kind of always impressed me was when the Black Panthers decided to take on San Francisco State College, University now, but they ran up against the university president, S.I. Hayakawa. He was a small-statured, kind of a bespectacled man, who jumped up on a flatbed truck with these guys and jerked the wire out of their loudspeaker. And, that's the kind of adult that we would actually be looking for in our college campuses, but unfortunately are very, very hard to find. But when you do have them running the campus, they react fast, they remove the protesters, and if there's any violence or attempts at violence, the students are immediately arrested, booked, and expelled. No amnesty, no records expunged. And that's really what I think American citizens who pay money for tuition really want to see.